Hey guys, Ron here, and as I get more and more acquainted with the Pokemon community and the various opinions Pokemon fans have, one shared sentiment and or conclusion that the entire collection of Pokefans have made is that there are a bunch of Pokemon that deserve more attention from Game Freak than they currently do. In this video, I'm talking about the group of Pokemon that I've come up with that I wish the Pokemon Company would feature more in all aspects of the franchise. Let's make it clear, I'm not talking about random Pokemon that are underrated by fans, but rather deserving Pokemon I've personally chosen based on my own ideas and biases, who I believe would help the franchise as a whole if they were put in the spotlight more often. But this is not an underrated Pokemon list. That would be another video. This is a list of Pokemon who are relatively popular and deserve more game, merch, or anime appearances because of it. I'm not saying take Pikachu, Charizard, or Lucario out of the franchise, but rather let's talk about the Pokemon that could replace them once in a while, so merchandise, events, or promotional material isn't oversaturated with starter Pokemon and Eevee. I love Eevee though. It's one of the cutest Pokemon in existence and can believably show all sorts of emotions, which makes sense for the secondary mascot of the franchise. But why does the critter have to be the default cute Pokemon whenever merchandise is created? I believe Cantonian Vulpix could take a small fraction of the attention Eevee gets. Almost all the attention it has gotten recently is in relation to Alolan Vulpix. Their merch comes in pairs, and Alolan Vulpix has most of the anime appearances, so how about we focus on the original Kanto Vulpix every once in a while? Sure, it's not as enthusiastic as Eevee, but its relatively calm personality makes it less obnoxious too, and I think the fans would appreciate seeing it more. The Eeveelutions get a good amount of attention too, but out of all these evolved forms, it seems like Glaceon and most importantly Leafeon are shown off way less than any other evolution. They're the odd pair, but they're also the most exotic looking in my opinion. Of course, they are seen more than the average Pokemon, but our lives would be more delightful if Glaceon's cold attitude and Leafeon's mysterious beauty made various appearances in posters and the anime. May's Glaceon doesn't count. And while Dawn had her Togekiss, for being one of the strongest regular Pokemon and the final evolved form of one of the most iconic Pokemon, you'd think we'd see it more. It deserves some more recognition in my opinion. A Pokemon with a similar vibe is Whimsicott. Again, it is a popular Pokemon and that's why it should be recognized more. It's a Pokemon with an intuitive design, great personality, usefulness in the game, and it brings joy to all, except its opponents. So seeing it more here and there would paint the franchise in a better light. Imagine a world where this Pokemon is a household name like Venusaur or Rowlet. I believe fellow grass-type Pokemon Tropius, while not the most powerful Pokemon, is one of the most inspirational fictional creatures that this franchise has produced. Produce joke, cause banana. Even if you don't know what this Pokemon is, you see this monster and you get it. Banana Dinosaur. You can tell where this Pokemon lives and even its gentle personality. It looks like a creature from a fantasy world. I remember when I first saw one in Route 119 and thought that it was a perfect example of a Pokemon that felt believable in the location it's found in. If Tropius was shown in the background of more Pokemon related media, like it does in the Oras opening, it'd make the whole world feel alive and conceivable. Speaking of conception, the psychic fetus that is Reuniclus is friendly and one of the most unique Pokemon in existence. It would be a breath of fresh air to see a Pokemon like this in more plot-related battles or even cell-themed merch. I know some people would find it too weird, and I'm mostly considering Pokemon who are superficially cool for this list because they have to be attractive at first sight, while Reuniclus is a Pokemon you fall in love with the more you learn about it. At least give it some screen time since Bait ended up scrapping his Duosion. Just like how now that Mawil's Mega is basically scrapped, I think it's time for Game Freak to find ways to bring Mawile into the limelight again. It's a Pokemon with tons of personality. It's fierce yet small, cute yet scary. The angle at which this Pokemon is presented could appeal to a lot of different people, especially in an animated setting. It would be great if Mawile was featured as a main character in the anime. There are a bunch more cute Pokemon that are either overshadowed by their evolution or are simply rarely featured, yet could be milked for both their cuteness and personality. Skidoo, yes it's pronounced Skidoo, is both cute and energetic. I've already presented in my starter replacement video how if it had another stage in its family, it would be a perfect starter, and anything that looks like a starter should be slapped on any sort of merch, even Ash's team. But the Pokemon I think would make for the best anime character would be Riolu. Imagine this thing as a shonen protagonist, or at least Ash's regional ace. Watching a weak but headstrong and passionate Riolu slowly bond with Ash and become his strongest Pokemon once it evolves into a Lucario would be the most satisfying character development we could possibly get from this long-running anime series. Kinda similar to Greninja's arc. Riolu is super underappreciated for its design and character potential. It's one of the cutest Pokemon in this video, but it's a shame no one ever brings it up when talking about adorable Pokemon. But the only Pokemon I think is a step above Riolu when it comes to replacing Pikachu as both a mascot and a starter Pokemon is Shinx. Why isn't Shinx considered one of the most ideal Pokemon in existence? It evolves into what is generally accepted as a fairly cool Pokemon and can't get any cuter. We constantly feature Pikachu and a small selection of cute Pokemon, but this thing has the personality and design to do exactly what other famous cute Pokemon do too. Like Shinx, today's sponsor deserves way more attention. Swagbucks is a way for you to get cash and gift cards to places like Target, Olive Garden, Best Buy, and much more, just by taking surveys, playing games, and watching videos online. It's like a personal dream I had when I was younger come to life. I mean, getting paid for my opinions is like why I have this channel. So why not get paid for your opinions as well? I've tried it out and it's both fun and productive. It would help us a bunch if you could click the link in the description, which gives you a bonus $5 when you take your first survey. I cannot thank Swagbucks enough for this opportunity, so give it a try. Another electric type I think people would love more if it had better stats and was pushed into the spotlight would be Zebstrika. It's as cool as a zebra Pokemon can be. I cannot fathom anybody believing that anything about this design can be made better. So when a Pokemon perfectly translates a popular animal into Pokemon form, why isn't the Pokemon company publicizing it? If I made this, I'd be like, hey guys, look what I made! Isn't it cool? Plus its pattern is the easiest to translate into merch. Boom! Look at that! Hippowdon is another Pokemon whose concept and basis alone, I'd assume, would make it extremely popular. It's a hippo. That's a famous animal. I think the only reason it's not as popular as it is the fact that it looks like a hippo. But who the hell is expecting a pretty hippo? That was a rhetorical question, by the way. I don't want to know. The point is, it's a powerful Pokemon that I'd consider one of the most notable designs from its generation. So why is it treated like a forgettable Pokemon? You can answer that in the comments. That wasn't a rhetorical question. I have the same feelings about Sawsbuck. However, I know that the reason it's rarely mentioned is the fact that it isn't amazing in battle. But you know your boy Ron doesn't judge Pokemon by battle prowess. Everything else about this Pokemon is awesome. Its pre-evolution is literally flawless, and I would assume Game Freak would put it on their seasonal merch, and they do sometimes, but nobody cares how cool and natural it is that Sawsbuck's form depends on the season it was caught. It's a perfect example of how Pokemon themselves are pieces of art. I mean, the fans do a better job selling Sawsbuck than the Pokemon Company. I asked Twitter about Breloom, and they mostly said it was justly rated, but it's a great Pokemon though and deserves some praise. Not the best thing in the world, but a Breloom with Spore? 100% sleep move? Forget about it. It's a great creature and in my opinion one of the most successful Pokemon to be of a vague design. It's a mushroom mixed with a kangaroo and a dinosaur. It's got hooves, but we let it slip because Breloom's cool. But how about some really underrated Pokemon? We got Escavalier and Excelgor here, but people don't care of them because people keep on looking at these stats as extreme instead of extreme! Excelgor is super frail, but it's one of the fastest Pokemon in existence. Escavalier is the slowest thing in the world, but if it's not battling a fire type, it's invincible. That's not an exaggeration. This gnarly knight and this shockingly speedy shinobi are fun. Don't tell me knights and ninjas aren't cool enough for you, because the stats don't matter when showing them off, especially with such a cool evolution method. There are tons more underrated bugs in Unova, but if I had to mention one, it would be Volcarona. For a Pokemon with its own in-game event battle and appearance as the ace of a champion, you'd think people would talk about it more. Its detractors think it's overrated, but Volcarona fans see it as the non-pseudo-legendary that deserves to be as famous as an actual pseudo-legendary Pokemon. Maybe as famous as a legendary. Speaking of which, before we move on to the underrated legendary and mythical Pokemon I've chosen for this video, let's talk about my honorable mentions. Pokemon I believed needed more attention before I started scripting this video, but upon further research and recent events, realized that they have just the right amount of spotlight. Aggron is a monumental Pokemon that you can acquire in the beginning of your journey, and will appear at the end when battling Steven. Its notable Mega pushed it back into the spotlight a few years back, so it's just a mention. Flygon is underrated in the fact that Game Freak did it dirty a few gens ago by not giving it a Mega, but it's prominent in Gen 7 and 8 in both the Wild area and Raihan's team. Zangoose is underrated from my perspective. It's one of my personal favorite Pokemon, but nobody really cares and thinks it should get more attention than it currently has. Drapion is cool, but it already had enough anime appearances and is sprinkled justly throughout Gen 4 and even Gen 8. I just think people aren't talking about the fact that we have a giant ogre scorpion running around. Roserade's cool, it's both beautiful and lethal looking, a perfect femme fatale Pokemon. Toxicroak is one of my favorite Pokemon, yet even I never talk about it. I love this thing, and I believe it deserves some kind of love in a Sinnoh remake or the next gen, but it does appear in various teams. Gallade was gonna be here cause nobody talks about it as much as they talk about Gardevoir, but then again, it's super popular in its own right. Stoutland is another personal favorite that I think should be admired, but most would think it's just a random dog. It's the most heroic Pokemon in existence, as I detailed in this video you can find above, so at least give it some respect. I think Scrafty's concept is amazing. A lizard that wears its shedded skin like baggy hoodlum clothes? That's genius. But people talk about it and it appears here and there, especially in Gen 8, so it's justly rated. just like Bisharp. I simply think it's an above average Pokemon and would love for it to be famous, but I think Haxorus deserves to be on the list more than any other honorable mention. People already think it's a pseudo-legendary, but never use it because it's not. It's one of my favorite Pokemon of all time, partially because I think its design is perfect, but it's rarely mentioned. However, it's got some screen time in Gen 8, so it fell down to honorable mention status. But now imagine being a box art legendary, but everybody talks about the other less valuable one. That's Ho-Oh's life. Of course it's talked about more than the average Pokemon, but for a box art legendary, it's a disgrace how much people prefer Lugia. Am I the only one getting angry about this? Probably, but it's my video, so he's in. Volcanion got a movie, great for him, but like, doesn't he deserve at least some kind of story or detail in the game? Hoopa at the very least had those wormholes in Oras, and even though we would love for Zygarde to be on the box of some game, it had an entire anime arc, a side mission in the following gen, multiple forms, and was catchable in the game it debuted in. But Volcanion? Nothing. Just an event distribution like other mythicals, yet it didn't even have some in-game storyline like the Gen 5 mythical Pokemon. Literally the same exact situation for Zeraora. Maybe even less since it wasn't even that much of a focus in its own film. Lugia was. The final myth and my personal favorite is Marshadow. It has one of the best designs of the Pixie legendaries and a really cool origin, yet its appearance in the film has nothing to do with it. It's just Ho-Oh's henchman, for like no reason at all. And in the game, nothing. An event without a story. It's not unprecedented, but it hurts when it's done to your favorite little legend. But I hope you guys can at least become legends by subscribing if you haven't, or simply liking the video if you enjoyed. Make sure to check the description for the music I used, the t-shirts I made, my Patreon, or press the join button to become a member and get cool rewards like discount on merch, that sweet Sceptile family icon near your name, and seeing my videos days early. Make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram now, and I'll see you guys very soon.